When I sleep, someone creeps into my house and takes my eyes. He pops them in his own head and goes strange places. Oh, such strange places. I could never go places that only exist in strange forms, like haiku. My teeth all fall out. Swim with massive animals. I fall from the sky. Tells me she's hungry. Tell her I'll feed you myself. She bites from my side. Love pours out the holes. Bites and swallows. Still hungry. I'm all out of sides. I'm a soft machine, animated by a spark. A human being. I'm a soft machine, animated by a spark. A human being. A human being. A human being.
Hold on. I'll be right back. My sister just fell into a giant crab's shell. I told her the legs of her chair were too pointy. She didn't listen. She fell right in. She was too busy reincarnating as Al Jolson. She's always doing shit like that. I'll be right back. Okay, I'm back. So sorry to keep you waiting, Mr. President. Oh. Hey, what's up? What seems to be the problem, officer? Quick question. We're like mostly matter, right? We're pretty much just stuff. Some people say we're spirit, and the stuff isn't important. Probably somewhere in between. If Plato ever asked me what a human is, I'm not plucking any chickens. I'm just gonna tell him it's a spiritual matter. See the pun? But if we're just matter, what about when we dream? What are we while we're dreaming? When I'm dreaming, I'm just a guy running around interacting with the whole world, populated with other people, just like when I'm awake. With a few exceptions, it usually doesn't even occur to me until I wake up. Oh shit, that was a dream. I either thank God that I didn't just execute a bunch of pimps and get shot in the neck, or I curse God for waking me up right before I was about to get blown by Sybil Shepherd. So, who is that dream guy running around? What's he made out of? What was Dream Sybil Shepherd's mouth made out of? And I suppose it's matter in the sense that my neuronal activity produced the delusion that I was witnessing as the dream. It was the neurons that produced the experience of the dream in the form of a delusion. So the dream world and the people in it, including myself, are not matter or non-material, but the process that forms that delusion is based in gray matter. The brain interprets its own activity during sleep and produces an assumed reality based on your past experiences. which is funny. Everybody in every dream you have is actually just you. Like, so in my dream where I'm lusting after Sybil Shepherd and she's about to blow me, that's not actually Sybil Shepherd. It's just me. I'm acting out her part in my imagination. It's me lusting after myself in Sybil Shepherd face, about to blow myself. And God goes, okay, that's enough. For Christ's sake. He wakes me up. But if the dream world is an illusion created by the brain interpreting its own stimuli during sleep, then being awake and walking around is of the same category of delusion. Because being awake and walking around, you're still just perceiving external stimuli, converting that to neuronal activity, and then that produces your lived experience, is the neurons, right? So your lived experience is itself a reduced picture of the whole universe, and therefore a delusion. It's your brain's best approximation of the information it's receiving from your nervous system. Fucking dogs. It's your brain's best approximation of the information it's receiving from your nervous system. Your nervous system's acting like a reduction valve on the universe. Your nerves choose which phenomena in the universe are worth capturing and sending to the brain. It leaves out the rest. Some people have a leaky reduction valve. But for most people, it only captures and sends to your brain the lights and sounds and feelings you need to survive in the meat prison. So just like a dream, it takes those sensations and forms a picture of the world. In just the same way as the people in your dream are actually you, because your dream is just populated by your own consciousness. In the same way, all of us here in the world also share a single source of consciousness. Right? The universe itself awakens within each of us by the same process. We're animated by the same spirit, made alive, manifesting from the same substrate. In this way, you could infer that we're God's dream, right? Or the universe's dream, if you prefer. Some people have been too damaged by abusers who pervert the word or the idea of God. So they like to say the universe. Personally, I choose to reclaim the spiritual language and not cede that territory to extremists and idiots. So I say God, and I relegate to God all things which are beyond my ability to control. And in truth, I choose to reclaim not just the language, but the spiritual authority over myself. No one I've ever met has given me any reason to believe that their delusions are more valid than my delusions. Certainly not to such an extent that I should ignore my own direct experiences with the mystery, or let another man decide my morals for me. To quote the author Christopher Morley, every man wanders lonely to his God. It's your soul. And no one else is going to be there to speak for you when it comes time to make an honest accounting of the time you spent here. And if you don't believe that that's going to happen, do whatever you want. But you better pray that you're right.
By the powers vested in me by AmericanMarriageMinistries.com.
I am the Reverend Chris James.
But you can call me CJ. CJ from hell.
Hey, I'm CJ from, Today we're going to reclaim our spiritual authority. We're going to learn to experience shame. We're going to talk about the Pope. I'm going to tell you about a church pastor and his wife who accused me of being Satan when I was a child. And I'll prove demons are real by talking about that guy who rage quit life after he got busted whacking off at a Bikini Bean coffee shop in Tempe. But first, I just want to clarify, because people think I was mean to Lauren Sanchez last week. I'm getting death threats. To the people sending the death threats, I'm already dead. Come see me, and I'll take us to hell together. You worm. You nothing. You godless pagan work animal. Anyway, I don't let stuff like that bother me. But I should clarify, this is a comedy show. Above all, I'm trying to express my tremendous discomfort in the world through humor, and all those hurtful things last week I said were just jokes. You know? Like when I said Lauren Sanchez has a tapeworm of the soul. I was just kidding. But I won't continue to pick on her. I'm sure Jeff Bozo finds her real attractive or whatever. You know, and at the end of the day, that's truly all that matters. Because who gives a fuck what I think? You know? Beauty's in the eye of the... Ah! She looks like Jack Nicholson's Joker without the makeup. Now, honestly, she inspires me. To carry garlic and a wooden stake. Speaking of vampires, the Pope died. I was reading, I guess new Pope comes out May 7th. I assume on Netflix. Yeah, I don't remember the whole process for picking a new Pope. If I'm not mistaken, they pick him out of a bucket on Kill Tony. Quick question about the Pope. Why does Christianity need a president? Or Catholicism or whatever? Why do they need a president? And why hasn't that president ever been black? I say if they don't elect a black pope, we storm the Vatican. Just for kicks, you know, it's been a while since we did anything fun. Did you know there's a room in the Vatican where they store the chiseled off penises of statues they acquired over the centuries? Yeah, the black pope should make that the room where he puts his throne. He just sits there and smirks all day. That rules. I'd honestly only be comfortable with one of three popes. Either a black guy, any black guy, it really doesn't matter. Mel Gibson, for obvious reasons. Or me. I'll be the pope, you know, for a few. Pope CJ from hell. But if it's not going to be me or Mel Gibson or literally any black guy, then I say we decentralize the church entirely. Put the whole Bible on blockchain, including the Apocrypha, Crypto Jesus, Praise the Lord coin, deposit 10 Hail Marys into my Bit and Apple wallet, and go with God. And by go with God, I mean go with the God Parlay this Sunday on DraftKings. Promo code Hell on Earth. What's up? Yeah, having a president of Jesus seems like a bad idea. I get they want a leader for the Catholic Church worldwide, but that's stupid. It doesn't even work for Christian churches in the suburbs. Having fake authorities at church is how you end up with a bunch of molested kids. It's the same thing as government. I need you to understand this, dear listener, dear viewer. These systems of authority are not real, right? Whether it's the Pope or Prince Andrew or the President of the United States, it's all professional wrestling. Like, all these so-called authorities are no different than professional wrestlers. Everything they say is pretend, and they're often found in their underwear entertaining 10-year-old boys. These systems of authority are not real. They're abstractions in your mind that shape your behavior, you know, and they cause you to defer to others on important matters. Matters of life and death, yes, but not just matters of life and death. You know, like also matters of having a life worth living. You know, these systems of authority are not real, but your deference to these fake authorities shapes their behavior, and it gives them some dominion over you. You know, by deferring to them, they shape your thought, and so they direct your behavior, and therefore they exercise their will through you. Not my will, but Coca-Cola's. Our Father, who art in health and human services, Fauci's will be done on earth as it is in China. These systems of authority are not real, but you're usually taught to defer to these people as a child, you know, before you develop any agency. So it doesn't even occur to you that these false authorities might not actually have your best interests in mind, or that even if they do, they might not be competent to act in your interests. It's a bad system. It's rotten at its foundation. Any centralization of, for example, church leadership, de facto creates a toxic incentive structure that elevates status by hierarchy in the church, causes people to self-aggrandize. Right? I used to go to this church when I was in 7th grade. I was all curious about God, right? Trying to figure out what was going on. And my friend Damon went to church, and he invited me. So I went, And I was like, oh, this rules. There's like an actual community here of people who care about their soul. Right on, let's see what's going on. And so I asked a bunch of questions about like dinosaurs and shit, and everybody was like, I don't fucking know, dude, what do you ask? We'll talk later. And then we never talked later, you know? And so the pastor of that church was like this like wannabe Christian rock star guy, and apparently it had gotten around that I had smoked weed before. The pastor's wife was like, he's Satan come to tempt the youth group. And I was like, oh, I'm 12. But yeah, so eventually they got me kicked out. My grandma dropped me off at like a youth night one night, and then the youth leader came tromping out. He was a big fat guy, and he's like, it smells like weed out here. You smoking weed? And I was like, ha ha ha. No, I've been hanging out here. My grandma dropped me off. I don't know what you do with your grandma. I'm like, all right, well, you're a piece of shit. And also one time, we were being disruptive at church, and the pastor called us in, and I put my feet up on his desk, and he was like, what's up? What's with the attitude? And we were like, we know you're just taking all this church money to go be like a rock star. You know, you're trying to like fulfill your rock star dream, dude. You're not tricking us. You know, we're 12. We're on to you. But the church people didn't really figure that out until about 5 years later, when the whole church split because he was embezzling money to fund his rock band. Whoops. You know, from the mouth of babes. But look, that guy does not care about your soul. And he's a church pastor, right? He cares about his ego. It's not important to him that your soul be redeemed for all eternity in the love of the creator of all things. What's important to him is that he's the one you look to for the redemption, right? This is not a man who can guide you to heaven, because he has no interest in doing that, right? If your work vehicle needs major repairs done, you go to a professional, right? If you can find them, you go to somebody who's genuinely interested in automotive repair, who actively improves their knowledge and skills set, and blah, 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 has a reputation for being the best, right? You don't take it to a guy on Craigslist who flips Honda Civics. So in the same way, don't take your soul to a guy who wants you to come see his band play at Desert Ridge Mall. He's not going to get you into heaven. You know who is going to get you into heaven? In fact, the only person who can get you into heaven? Me. Nah, I'm just kidding. It's you, dude. You. Reclaim your authority. You know, seek wisdom, aspire to the good, and make decisions on behalf of the good. It's you, dude. Reclaim your authority. You know, and that doesn't mean do whatever you want all the time and to hell with everybody else, right? Like, true authority requires a dash of humility. A real moral authority, for example, expresses shame. This is another reason why you should never let fake moral authorities lecture you about anything. You know, such as the U.S. government or Israel, for example. They'll never admit their folly. You know, they will never express shame for their war crimes. They're not moral authorities. They're techno-fascist brutes. Having a little shame is good. It's part of why common religious people are better than common non-religious people. You know, I'm not talking about zealots. I'm talking about working class folks of average temperament. When those people are religious, they often express shame where the secular would not admit to it. And why do the spiritual or superstitious express shame? Because they have actual values that mean something to them, right? The redemption of their spirit for all eternity means something to them. The reverberation of their actions on others across time means something to them. They consider their actions innately important in a way that secular folks have to reason their way to. The wisdom of religious folks is that they relegate both the eternal and the ephemeral to the realm of intuition, right? They have a recognition of the illusory nature of reality. This imparts to the religious a ready-made, plug-and-play framework for understanding that there are forces acting on them from beyond their comprehension and so outside of their control. There are all kinds of forces that affect us beyond our control, right? Internally, there are evolutionary forces, psychological forces. When we do or don't have to go to the bathroom, right? Externally, there are international corporate conglomerates, rogue government actors, and bipolar chicks. There's all kinds of solicitors and recruiters and proselytizers who want your flesh and blood. And when they get that, they want your ghost too. There's no shortage of demons in the world. And look, categorizing the bad things that are out of your control as demons, such as cancer or my ex-girlfriend, helps give them a shape you can recognize in your internal life. The same with characterizing the good things that are out of your control as angels. It gives you a symbol to place your appreciation upon for the blessings you receive that have nothing to do with the work of your own hand. You know, secular folks never offer replacements for the symbolism they want to tear down, right? And that symbolism is necessary. It's doing something, right? It's a mental scaffolding that holds up all kinds of useful psychic structures. Calling the things beyond our control demons and angels, and praising God or wagging a fist at Satan helps us function in the world by packaging extremely abstract and complex ideas into comprehensible forms of thought that we might actually make some use of. So before you go just like talking shit, acting like every religious person's retarded, maybe you're retarded and you actually don't understand what's going on. Maybe we don't need to necessarily draw a pentagram on the floor and sacrifice an infant to an owl god, but at least by acknowledging your destructive compulsions as demons, you've taken the first step in categorizing them as negative forces beyond your control. Through analogy, you can then build a roadmap for overcoming your compulsions or battling your demons, and you can do this pretty naturally. Like, storytelling's an innate function in most people's brains, and through storytelling and analogy, we comprehend the world.
There was a guy recently who took his own life after going to Bikini Bean with no pants on and getting filmed by the staff who called the police. I mean, that guy just woke up and wanted some coffee. I bet he even wanted to put his pants on at first, but as he went to put his pants on, still in that witchy liminal space between awake and asleep, he was vulnerable. A demon appeared over his left shoulder about 3 feet back, and it said,
"Bro, skip the pants."
And he had no spiritual or psychological training, no way to recognize this compulsion weaving a delusion before his mind's eye. No way to hear the demon's whisper.
These bikini bitches are gonna love seeing your rockin' ding-dong while they're trying to work through their hangover.
So he was just like, fuck yeah, they're gonna love this. And then he hopped his bare ass into his Mustang and rode that pony off into the sunset of that delusion, right into the bright morning light of reality. Smack dab in the middle of staring at some chick's cell phone camera while she's screaming,
"Sir, you need to leave. Unacceptable. Unacceptable. Call 911.
And he panicked. He peeled off. The demon had tricked him, created an alternate reality in his head that did not correspond to the consensus reality we all share. And as he drove away, the demon crept up in his back seat. And the demon said,
"Dude, you don't even have to deal with this bullshit. Pistols under the seat."
in his manic state, he sought relief from his shame so he wouldn't have to feel it. He chose to die rather than to feel the shame for what he'd done.
So he checked out. Credit where it's due, he certainly reclaimed his authority, but he didn't have shame. He didn't have a higher calling. I wonder if he ever even asked for a confirmation from the world. If he ever asked for a confirmation from God. I've challenged God, and I've seen my challenge answered. God's funny and cruel. And these days I just try not to appeal to higher authorities in anything but graciousness for being and to ask for the well-being of others. I might pray for relief from chronic pain sometimes, but I can't remember right now. I wouldn't put it past me. I'm only a man, but at least I try to be that. Just a man. A man who knows he's going to die someday. Not a god, not a rock star Jesus, and not some automated meat machine deferring my very nature to corporate branding, government propaganda, or religious dogma, or the approval of my family or friends or some woman. That was the wisdom of the Big Lebowski. A man should be a man unto himself. Like, I should not so willingly pass off what might be my only incarnation as CJ, being dragged around champing at some corporate bit in my mouth, with government-made steel shoes nailed into my hooves, and some small pedophile in a big hat whipping me, but by the grace of God, to go faster. All compelling me to work so hard that I die for them. And again, it's not just these big insidious social systems I'm describing that have intravenously inserted themselves into our lives over thousands of years that you have to beware of. Sometimes it's a woman or a man or an obsession or an addiction, a compulsion. At the very least, a realized human being should choose how they waste their time. You have to choose how to use your life. Otherwise someone or something else will choose how to use your life for you. You have to spend your time and energy wisely, because there are no shortage of predators who would happily spend your time and energy on their own shit, so they don't have to do it themselves. And there are substances and behaviors that are viruses on the human mind. Addiction is an inhuman force that will suck your time and energy away for nothing. A demon. Aristotle said, "I count him braver who overcomes his desires than him who conquers his enemies. For the hardest victory is over the self." And that's what makes Jesus such a powerful symbol. Whether you're into it or not, whether you believe he was a man, whatever. As a symbol, he begs you not to give in to the self, but instead serve the highest conceivable purpose, and in so doing, realize the greatest and most lasting good. And I'm not here to be like Timu Jordan Peterson, but it's true. And Jesus does it, the symbol of Jesus, it happens through a very simple maxim. It's very simple, palatable, not my will, but God's. A simple calling. Don't narrow your behavior by your limited set of compulsive self-interests. Don't give in to the ancient and automatic brain centers that seek only stasis. Instead, seek the highest calling. Engage your neocortex. Use your higher functions to deliberate and realize your existence. Make your existence real. Not just a story you tell yourself while you march around the store fulfilling the wishes of some marketing team. Or get arrested trespassing on federal property for some CIA psyop. Or worst of all, die in your 60s with a 401k and no stories to tell. Elect yourself, the pope of your own soul. Have a modicum of shame and comport yourself, and then realize you're going to die. You are going to die. You're going to die. Stop wasting time.
Yeah, you gotta walk that lonesome valley. You gotta walk it for yourself. Nobody else can walk it for you. You gotta walk that valley for yourself.